Okay, another episode of Truth Has No Side podcast. Today's guest is Leon Kolaski. I just met him through a friend of a friend. He has got a very unique story about what brought him into spirituality and becoming a healer. He is a healer, of course. And I did a session with him yesterday to test things out. Um, and we'll keep it very simple with that. Leon, will you please let the world know who you are, what you do, etc.?
Yeah. My name is Leon Kolaski, originally from Chicago. Been in Los Angeles area for a little over 10 years now. And over the last probably 15 years, I've actually been in the direct response marketing world. Been doing that, at least for the last 7 or 8 years at a fairly high level, and have enjoyed that. And then really my entrance into, kind of energy and spirituality probably started almost 7 years ago. I had met somebody that I thought was kind of fascinating, that teaches people all about energy. And my original attraction kind of to this work was really I wanted to make more money as an entrepreneur. I understood that when you get the energetics taken care of, that you can have pristine health, better relationships, and better finances. And so for me, that was kind of my original attraction to the work. And when I first started, practicing, that's what I was able to do. And then it was really about a year after I had started, digging into this work, then had a family tragedy, and my father had taken his own life. And so that, had an impact on me, both physically and, mentally. And it took me a while, but I kind of had an epiphany like 6 months in that, like, oh, I can actually, help myself, with the stuff that I've already got. And that forced me to, dig in even more and, tighten up my practice and make it part of my routine. And then it was really not till about, must have been 6 months or 12 months after that, just a function of doing this type of work. People just tend to tell me their stuff and what's going on with them. And I had one of my clients at the time, there were a few things that were kind of getting a little funky. And so had a conversation with her, and it ended up that she was about ready to go in for very major back surgery. And so I told her, a bit about, what I do. And, she was just at the point where she was willing to try anything. And so did, some work with her, did a session with her. And the next day I did a FaceTime call, and I remember it was her and her daughter. And, her daughter basically got on and was like, what the F did you do to my mom? She had such a, big transformation, was kind of out of pain and didn't, need to, do that surgery, just really had a major shift. And so that's what kind of piqued my interest into doing this work. It was just kind of, to me, it was more like a fascination of like, what is possible. Right. And I've had many, I've had so many cases like that, probably, hundreds since, but it was just in the very beginning. It was like just seeing like cool transformation and really magical things happening to people that kind of kept me addicted to doing this stuff and, wanting to do more. And so, yeah, that's kind of how I got into, doing the healing. And as I kept doing more, I kept seeing more magic and miracles. And, with that, that kept me hooked in and wanting to do more and helping more people with it. And I always kind of felt like it fulfilled a different part of me that I didn't get from, my regular work. It just like made my soul happy.
First of all, thank you for the honesty, because most people feel that saying that they got into this for personal reasons, for selfish reasons, to get ahead in business, to make more money, they think that's like sacrilegious in the spiritual world. And I think most of us, including myself, I got into this because of that. That's all I knew. I came out of a good sized business. Something in me shifted. I went down the spiritual path, not even knowing what it was. And when I heard meditation would give me clarity and almost, in a sense, in my mind, give me one up on people, the ability to see things others couldn't. It was a very selfish reason. And then as time goes on, that kind of shifts. But yeah, thank you for the honesty there. If you don't mind me asking, I don't know if you get this question a lot, because you kind of just, you've told me about it before. You just talked about it now. Your dad, was there something, was it sudden? Was it out of the blue, or was there a depression? If you don't want to talk
Um,
about it, we can move on.
yeah, no, actually, uh, this will be the first time I've ever talked about it publicly, but yeah, so he was a Vietnam War vet, and was struggling, all the time, with that stuff, and it was really the last few years that he started going into the medical system and taking different things to support him with that stuff, and just had a negative effect. And he was also having some stuff with some very major like life transitions going on too at the time. So yeah, it was. He did a good job of hiding things and
Mm-hmm.
making it like everything was okay. He never wanted us to know that. So yeah, it was definitely a surprise for sure.
I think that's more common. I mean, I'm
Hmm.
sure you felt that. You felt that way. I felt that way. There's a lot of times where people would think I'm well put together and happy, and nothing could be further from the truth. Um,
Yeah.
Again, another unique question. With what you know now, your ability to do what you do, to transform understanding energy, um, do you think you could have helped? Could you have shifted that?
Um, yeah, I think future me could have.
Yeah,
You know, and I think it's too. When you go backwards, or when you look backwards, you learn a lot of different things that you
sure.
could have that you maybe overlooked or didn't give as much weight to, that you could have, that might have might have opened up to having a few different conversations that could have helped, for sure. So yeah, definitely. I think it comes
Yeah,
down
I've
to a lot is just like communication, and we do get so busy in our lives we forget to do some of that stuff and have those conversations and things like that. But I don't put anything on myself for any of that, but it's more of
sure.
um, yeah, I would have loved to have had a different outcome from all of that for sure.
Yeah, and I've heard with all the interviews, and I mean the hundreds of people I've crossed paths with healers and people who know how to do some amazing things. They've had many family members who just could were not open to it. It's just thought it was bullshit, thought it was
Yeah.
witchcraft, thought it was something. It was just not the right thing for them, and there's nothing they could do. Nothing.
Yeah, and I really didn't get into any of this stuff until afterwards, or at least
Yes.
not so much. I was already into it, because I've always been rather spiritual, and had a lot of gifts that I turned down or shut off pretty early on, and took a long time to bring those back online. And so it was always there. Certain things that just are unique to me, and so um, I think that sometimes when you have some really difficult challenges and things like that, it takes all of your strength and all of your abilities, and it forces you to grow in order to make it through that particular chapter in your life. And I'm grateful for that aspect, of being able to get through that, and ultimately now, I mean, I don't know that I would be helping people at the rate or the way that I am, you know, if it were not for that, so
Yeah.
it's kind of interesting, interesting perspective, with all of that.
If you don't mind, you many people will gloss over what they had as a kid that they shut down. Right? They're talking about now. They're talking about what their abilities are now. But as a kid, did you see things? Did you experience things? Did you have certain experiences, or what was it that you
Yeah,
shut down? Was it a fear? Was it just not knowing?
yeah, for me, it's just lots of knowings. Now, I mean, it's things are much more advanced. I see energy, and obviously, I'm working with it many times a day. Often for several hours a day. through the healing practice and working with group healings and other things that I do. So, and that takes many years to kind of develop. But just early on, just a lot of, I wouldn't even say it's just intuition. It was more of just like knowings and things like that, premonitions and things like that. I turned down, so yeah, I think it was more of just that, and it's very easy to lose your way, right? Like you go through some tough times. You and I share a mutual friend that we went through some kind of tough times together. We were in the real estate world at a interesting time in the world. So I think after that, and sometimes when you lose your way because of some life circumstances or something like that, it's easy to like stop listening to the voice or listening to your guidance and stuff like that, just because you just get so far off track. And so I think it's something to be mindful of. If people are out there and they're going through something where it's really difficult, that it's even more important to double down on your gifts and guidance and all of those things to help you get things resolved faster. Right?
Energy is the new hot topic. Everyone's talking about energy. There's a lot of people coming online, such as yourself, as energy healers. Science is talking about it. Quantum physics is talking about it. It's pretty common. I like to hear how different healers describe what they do. Could you describe in your construct your understanding of what you're doing with energy and why you're able to heal someone like me who's thousands of miles away over a screen?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think it's fascinating. If you understand how much we could actually see with our eyes and our senses of the amount of energy that's there, I think it's something like maybe 3% or 5% is in our perception. And so, a lot of the other systems that are out there for taking care of people, they're working on those, scientific stuff, the stuff that they could see, the stuff that they could technically measure. When, most of the energy goes unseen. It's beyond our, perception. And so, I think when you're working with the energy, most people are familiar that we have, an energetic body, or, some people use different words to describe it, maybe like an aura, people, your different energy centers, your chakras, some people call it that. That when everything in somebody's health or even in their life starts in the energy first, it started in their energy field first, whether that is from information from others that got poured into their energetic body from the movies they watch, the people that they hang around, the conversations that they're having with others, and also the conversations that they're having with themselves. All of that is putting energy into the energy body. And what happens is that in some cases those energy centers will get blocked with just lower poopy energy. And what happens is if that stuff is not resolved for a period of time, that's when you have, pain or discomfort. That's just the body saying, hey, something needs attention, something needs to change. Right. And it's just, we've gotten to a point where in many cases we'll just take a pill or something and not, to mask that discomfort that somebody has when getting and resolving the trauma or the thoughts or whatever it is at the energetic root of the problem, will allow things to happen much quicker than working on something from the outside. So and then to kind of answer your question as far as like how can I work on somebody at a distance. So a very small percentage of people that I work on will actually be in front of me, in the same room. I work on people literally all over the world now. And in doing so, it doesn't matter if somebody is 12 inches in front of me. I would never actually, physically touch as part of the process, or if somebody is, thousands of miles away, um, you know, everything that between me and you is just energy. So it doesn't matter the distance, between you and I can still have an effect. And, science does a decent job of kind of understanding it with quantum entanglement, right? Like, with the mind, you can affect an object really anywhere in the world, um, with your intentions. And, just because there is no space in between us, that's just kind of the illusion, right? Like all there is just energy.
Sorry, let me unmute it. What is it in the individual? What was it in you that made you understand that you could do this? What was that shift in perception? What was that feeling? What was that knowing?
Yeah,
Whatever you want to call it.
yeah, I think it was just right away in doing it. The stuff that I teach, right away, within you know the first day or second day, people can already start to have an effect on others. Using this stuff, it's a very, very high spiritual teachings, and a lot is happening at the higher levels and things like that. And it's just the way I look at it is really for myself. I'm just the vessel. I don't necessarily, when people say it's, them doing, the thing, it's like, well, not necessarily, right? I'm just literally the meat suit, or, the vessel that is the vehicle, and working with, most people are familiar with angels, teachers, helpers, and guides. And I'm just kind of using that, to the highest ability to, be the one that brings it into the physical to allow for, the bigger results, right? It's really not necessarily me. I'm very skilled at working with those energies and working with that stuff, and, knowing what to do as far as the process for all of that. And that's what really gets the result. Like, I don't even like saying that I am, an energy healer. I heal people, but, I don't, it's not necessarily me. I do a lot of things on my end to make sure that I could do, their work, to the highest of my abilities, between, what I eat, my, personal routine. You see a lot of times, a lot of healers, they may not be taking very good care of themselves. And if you're not constantly working on yourself, you're just not going to be able to, do things at the highest level. So for me, I just take everything. When I do something, I do it 100%, 1000%. And it's the same with this work. So, my diet, the way that I eat, the way that I live, how I sleep, how I practice, for my, with myself, how often I work on others. And then also, the other side of the energetics, which is, the tithing and the giving and, being of service to others, does also have a big impact on somebody's ability to help others. As you, with law of reciprocity, and giving that you receive. So as, I give, and, so abundantly, I get to reap abundantly. And so as I'm working on lots of other people and helping lots of other people, the way that energy works, it actually also works on, myself as well. And I'm very fortunate that, because of my, marketing abilities, or my, abilities to be in front of lots of people, that I get to, work on lots and lots of people, every week. And that also, is very beneficial to, the results and things as well, by doing that.
Yeah, one of the things that made sense to me and I paid attention to was as I started to understand this stuff better, understand consciousness, understand how we were connected. You speak of how you go in 100%. You are practicing your craft. You are. A lot of people think all of this new spiritual stuff is magical. It's esoteric, but it's just something we're better understanding. And you are putting time into it, like a basketball player would, like a retired guy who wants to take a couple strokes off his golf score. An
For
engineer
sure.
being really good at building whatever it is. It's just a different craft that is not in the norm of humanity. So all of these new things are looked upon as magical, but they're going to become more normal as the years pass, especially with the things speeding up on this planet right now. Um, the other thing I took a note on is I like to listen to the answers, and then I got more questions. There are, I've always loved levels of consciousness. I've always loved levels of clarity, because you can have someone with a 160 IQ and they can be very ignorant to a lot of this stuff. They can be very Republican or very Democrat or very Catholic or very atheist, be very divided and not understand that the other side's just a mirror of themselves. So with healers as well, Akashic record readers, anyone, there's different levels. So like you said, you take
For
care of your
sure.
body. That's, there's different levels of energy healers. There's someone who's in second grade and they can heal you on a very simple level. Then there's healers
For
that
sure.
are in college and they could probably do something a little bit stronger for you. Um,
Hmm.
for the common man and woman, how do they decipher? How do they disseminate the levels of a healer when they don't even know what levels are, in a sense?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think it's if you want to get to know the tree, take a look at the fruit of the tree, right? Um, and so to me, it's like look at how they're helping other people, right? For me, a big part of what I do now too is also teach. And in doing that, because of myself, doing things in a certain way, and also my teacher, very, extremely high level, that actually has an impact on, their results too, because of, the spiritual lineage, or where the information comes from, and all of that as well. So yeah, I would just say just kind of look at how they're helping other people, right? Because not everybody, there's somebody out there for everybody that can help somebody, and it's not that they will always get everything 100% completely resolved. It could just help them with that next step and that next step, right? And open up, because healing's not really an event. I think that's where a lot of people get that wrong, is that, okay, you take care of the one thing, then there's layers to it, right? There's always deeper levels, if somebody chooses to do so. And by doing that, that also increases the level of consciousness, and the level of awareness of that person too, right? Because as your energy increases, that just allows for more of the information that's available to everybody to come in. And that's, to me, is really what consciousness is like. You can't, if you've got a poopy container, you can only put so much in there if it's all filled with crap. But when you start cleaning out the container, the energetic container, so to speak, it's going to allow for opportunity for a lot more good, to come in once you do get rid of all of those layers, and, have a good practice like that.
With you teaching others, I assume you have many different levels of people come to you. Have you ever had someone who said, I want to be an energy healer, and you've had to say no? Have you had to say, like, it's kind of like, it's like me and my soccer club. There's
Hmm.
guys that have played pro and semi pro, and then there's me. So we're all
Hmm.
soccer players, but they
Yeah.
kick the living shit out of me when we play soccer.
Yeah.
And they've tried coaching me and they've improved me considerably, but I'm
Hmm.
just never going to be at their level. Never going to be at their
Yeah.
level.
Yeah, and I don't think I don't really think of it in terms of that. To me, it's just, are they a good person? Are they looking to help other
Sure,
people beyond
sure.
themselves, right? Like, I don't expect anybody to be me or do things in the way that I do or practice as much as I do, and that's okay, right? Like, everybody is there to have whatever the experience that they want to, and progress as much as they want to, in this lifetime, right? So that's not for me to say. That's up to their soul, and kind of how much they want to be of service to others and help others. I'm just, because of my energy, and I end up attracting a lot of people that really do first want to take care of themselves. But I am completely baffled by the amount of support or the amount that the students are actually out there helping other people. Like one of my favorite parts of the whole process, because to be honest, putting it together events and doing all of that, there's a lot to it, right? Like it's quite an undertaking, even just to put on a small event of 10 to 20 people. There's a lot that goes into that. But to me, the most rewarding part of it, to me, that I enjoy probably more than anything, at least on the teaching side, is I do like a recap call with all of the past students a couple weeks after they've got the teachings, and to me, in the very beginning of that, I go ahead and that's over a Zoom call, and I go ahead and record those calls, and I get to hear what they're doing with other people. And to me, that's my favorite thing, because for me, one of my biggest things is really just like the impact that I can have in the world. So it's like, what can how can I have the biggest impact? And to me, it's like, if I can have all of these other people that start to work with energy and just master their own energy, they can then have an impact not only on themselves but their families, and then many of them will also help all of their local friends and family, and some of them turn it into a business, and really help a lot of people. And so for me, I really like that, because I think it just helps me just help a lot more people. Right. One of my favorite quotes, as an entrepreneur, was always the Zig Ziglar quote, is, that you could have everything in your life that you want. You just have to help enough other people get what they want. And so I've always kind of lived by that. And I think when you can help enough other people get what they want, and then you can help all of their people get what they want, it just creates a really cool impact in the world.
Sure. What about the impact on you? I've had other healers talk about the energy transfer between individuals. It may be dark. Does it drain you? Does it excite you? Are
Uh,
you neutral? Does it? No.
yeah, a lot of there's different modalities and different ways that people work with energy, and for me, I do not. I like to think that I'm very pristine, with my energy, everything from, my home, my diet, my exercise, all of those things, that as long as I stay on top of all of those things, I actually, like I said, when I'm working on somebody, it actually works on me. I actually don't get drained at all. Because you saw, even in one of my groups, I probably had, there were 6 or 8 people. Sometimes I'll do that 5 and 6 times a day and work on 30, 40 people in a day. And I'm really not, I'm not drained, because I'm not taking on this stuff. I know how to work with it in a way that does not really have an effect on me.
What is, and you may not be able to answer this, but how many people get the results they're looking for through you?
Mm. Yeah. So good question. So I think I see some people progress a little faster than others, and some people maybe a little bit slower than others, and a lot of times it's really as fast as that they want, or their soul wants to allow that to happen. A lot of times when I see people stuck, it's because they're not willing to give up what that thing does for them. Right? Sometimes they may have a pain, or something that gives them, maybe they didn't get attention from their significant other, and now they've got some sort of a thing that now gets them the attention, because they have to go to the doctors, they got to go to this, and all of these things. And it's just a lot of times, if we don't deal with the mental side of it, the energetics of the mind, then that's where it doesn't matter of working with the energy. If you don't take care of that side of it, uh, they could stay stuck for sure. So, and that's another aspect that I'm trained on, is also to work with that part of it to help get that unstuck as well. Because the mind is super powerful, right? Like it
Mm,
could
mm, mm.
create everything. That's the thing most people don't realize is everything in your life. between physicality, finances, relationships. Like at some point that started in the mind, or and ultimately it was in the energetic body for some period of time. And I think if people spend a little more time just being even more mindful of their thoughts and what they're listening to and what they're saying to themselves, right? We have to get that cleaned up even more. I've been doing a lot more stuff on social media lately. So I've been, whenever I get an idea or, like a concept that kind of drops in for me, I'm always thinking about, writing a video or, putting together a video so that I can, help people understand some of these concepts. And one of the things that kind of came to me over the last week was, sometimes even a practice as simple as meditation can actually do more harm to somebody than good if they're not, if they're doing lots of meditation and they're increasing their spiritual connection and allowing more energy to come in. And if the thoughts and things that are going on in their head are primarily negative, now they've added, more power to those things that are not necessarily what they want. And so I think, mindfulness around that, and, realizing just how magnificent the mind is and how that can have such a big effect on every aspect of life is super important.
And that comes full circle with the different levels. I think a lot of teachers will, if they're a meditation teacher, they will say that meditation is the only way. If they're a breathwork practitioner, breathwork is the only way. Not many people will say that meditation can actually harm or be actually a bad thing. And I would agree. That's something I've noticed with a lot of these modalities is there's two sides to it, and it depends on the individual. Because I meditated a lot, and it brought immense clarity to everything. Not the peace and bliss I was looking for. It was part of that, but it was also the shit I was trying to suppress, the stuff I didn't want to know, the stuff I didn't want to deal with, the stuff I had pushed aside. And that's the most difficult part. That is absolutely the most difficult part is having all that stuff come up.
Unfortunately, a lot of woo people tend to get stuck, right? Like you see a lot of it, and they don't quite understand the financial side of it, right? And how to really grow. It's almost like there's a lot of negativity thrown around, having money and things like that. And to me, being a spiritual person doesn't mean that you necessarily need to be broke or, that
No.
you have to choose between one or the other. I think spirituality is a beautiful way to ultimately figure out ways to have a better life, have an easier life, more flow and ease, throughout the life, and ultimately, be able to, because everything's just energy, and really money is just a representation of energy. So I think when you really understand how energetics work, that you can really have a profound impact, on your income, and maybe not even just income, because that's not the most important thing, but just even how the flow of money comes in for people. Because I've had it before, before I got into this work, I made all my money 100% through, like very masculine, force, right? Like just grinded out work, and, that worked for me. And it took me a very long time to learn how to, make money and, do this all in a way where it was just more effortless and a lot more flow and ease. I think that's overlooked by a lot of people, because it's really not necessarily about the money. It's just more of like what you're doing and how that can flow for you. And so I see that, a lot with people in spirituality get a little bit stuck around some of that stuff.
Yeah, they no different than a Catholic being let down by Jesus and becoming an atheist, or someone being a Republican and not liking them anymore and becoming a Democrat. It's just heads to the tails. They go from a suit and tie to white loose clothing with mala beads. It's good to have a balance and a combination of both. And also, depending on their evolution of the soul, their masculine energy, their need to grind it out in this incarnation may be exactly what they signed up for.
for
that's
sure.
one thing that's one thing that's interesting to me is there's a lot of people trying to be something they're not, and there's a lot of people who are um, trying to shift into a more spiritual life, and that may not be what their soul wants, and they struggle with it a lot. There's a
Hmm.
lot of people who a lot of people telling people that money doesn't buy happiness. A lot of people saying relationships don't buy happiness. Anything external doesn't bring them happiness. But if their soul's a little younger, that may be exactly what they want in this incarnation, and that may absolutely fulfill that
Yeah.
hole they're looking for in this life. So there's a
Hmm.
lot of people with ultimatums. There's a lot of people who have found the spiritual path and understood that the masculine part was something they grinded out, and now they're releasing a little bit more. They're taking it easy. They're doing both sides of understanding both sides of the coin. That's great.
Hmm.
That's not everyone's path. That's not everyone's story. So,
Yeah. And I
um,
do see,
go ahead.
a lot more people becoming even more spiritual, right? Like it's a little more there's different times in society where things have been,
Mm-hmm.
more spiritual, and it does seem like, especially with social media, everything, that there is a lot more spirituality and more people are being more aware, a lot more awareness to it, right? The consciousness is, increasing, and so more people, like you talked about, are talking about energy and, wanting to understand energy. And I think more people would um, put more of their time and effort towards spirituality. One of the concepts I was just talking about, I did a quote on social media about, was that the cool thing about when you work on your spiritual development is you get to keep that, and you take that, through all of eternity. Physical gains, financial gains, you don't get to take any of that with you, but spiritual gains and evolution of the soul, um, you get to bring that into the next step, so to speak.
With taking the spiritual gains into the next step, through your teacher, through your understanding, through your direct experiences, is this a planet of reincarnation? Are we continuously coming back until we learn and move on to a different planet, a different dimension, a passing of the school? What do you think all that is?
Yeah, I definitely, I grew up Catholic, and now I spend a little more time, studying more Eastern, stuff from the East, and so I do believe in that, personally. Not necessarily that everybody needs to believe that, but I do believe that we do, go through many different cycles, as part of our evolution of the soul, so to speak. I kind of think of Earth as, just a school. We're here to, learn and evolve, and from that perspective, it makes things not as big of a deal as we make things out to be. And I think it just makes life a little bit easier when you think of it that way. You know, that way, when you do have things that come up in life, things that are really difficult, I think it just gives it, at least for myself, it gives me a different perspective of, this really isn't so bad. Like, oh, I learned a good lesson there. I'm always looking for, like, what's the lesson, out of different experiences. And it's definitely made things a lot easier for me.
On a selfish note, direct question for me. Yesterday in our healing,
Mm.
did you what did you see in me? Was and I know there's some good, there's some bad. Truly, like you won't hurt my feelings. What did you see in me? Was there something blocking something? Was there something good? Was there everything in between?
Yeah. So not necessarily see, but definitely feel. So there was a lot of stuff around forcefulness. So like ajna, really, super congested. So that would be come from being very willful, right? You're very, masculine dude, probably, creating or looking to create, a lot from that, right? Like force, right? Is the way that I think of it, where it's just like, trying to will things,
Mm-hmm.
versus being more in the divine flow. And then also a little bit of stuff around, um, uh, just being a little stuck, overall. And so, when you get some of that cleaned up, it'll be interesting to see in the coming weeks or days. Some people have different epiphanies and thoughts that come up during those sessions. That's always fascinating to me to hear what happens after that.
For the hell of it, stuck how? How would you describe how stuck I am?
Yeah, so one of the main ways that we interact with the world, is through the solar plexus, and so solar plexus, anytime you have an energy center, that actually affects all the organs that are around it, and so solar is a lot of how we're interacting in the world, with others and creating in the world, and sometimes when there's a lot of congestion there, it can make it difficult to move in the direction that you want as quickly as you'd like. And so a lot of times when you get some of that stuff cleaned up, and that happens from our own thoughts, your interactions with other people, all of those things. When you get some of that stuff cleaned up, that's where it allows for things to rapidly shift for you.
So I'd like your opinion also on that because I've been around the block when it comes to healers. And my teacher can do some things that just physics just can't understand. And I've seen it
Mm-hmm.
on me. He's a great healer. I've worked with quite a few people with Shaktipat and other energy healers. I've worked with some people who do past life. I mean, just everything that you could possibly call the constructs, all the different type of healers.
Yeah.
Um, so I've done enough energy healing to probably kill most people. Um, am I really that stubborn? Is my ego and my inability to let this in from such a masculine side that stubborn? Like
Yeah,
because
I
there's
wouldn't
there's so
say
many
that.
times. Okay, go ahead,
Yeah,
sir.
I normally don't even get into that with people. I just think it's about a lot of the information that I might even get on working with somebody, as far as whatever is going on. It's usually not even that useful, right? Like, and I don't, that's one thing I don't like about a lot of other healers, because it kind of models what a lot of different doctors and other people, they say, oh, you got X, right? And then it kind of makes the
Mm-hmm.
thing a bigger thing, and it makes it a bigger problem than maybe it needs to be. And so it's, to me, it's like, just get the energy cleaned up and see what shifts for you, because focusing on where things are at sometimes keeps things where they're at.
Pretty simple answer. Pretty simple, but complex for someone like me, apparently.
Hmm.
Um,
Kind of why I don't like, I know I'm not going to get beat up online for this, but kind of why I don't necessarily like journaling. I think it's good if, done the right way. But there's a lot of things out there that people do that keep them stuck. And if your energy is, I want this, or this is, kind of where things are at. It just adds more energy to said thing, and that could, keep people where they're at. And I think you want to be in the now of the having, and the wellness, and all of those different things. So whether it's finances, whatever, you want to be in that like place where it's here, not in the waiting, because if you're in the waiting energy, then you're going to be waiting.
yeah, yeah. That's again, that's why I always
We've all
ask
done
about
that.
stubbornness. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I've
we've all
I've
done
been
that. It's even worse for me because as kind of play into the same concept of the meditations, as being like a teacher, things are happen even faster, right? So it's not always a good thing, right? Because I have to be even more on top of things, because things happen even faster, doing all the being all cleaned up and things like that. So yeah, it's always it's a journey, and you know can sometimes be a struggle to be super mindful of that stuff, so that I could correct it myself.
yeah. That's it's something I've paid a little bit more attention to the last 6 months, and it's amazing the thoughts that come up, the
Mm.
thoughts that even when you're being very intentful with your thoughts, the random shit that pops in.
Well, it's funny
That's
too.
unbelievable.
And I don't know if it happened in your group, but it's pretty common that when people get around me, their stuff is going to come up a little bit more, and it's I'm always fascinated by, like, somebody will be like, well, I have this or whatever. And, I'll correct people as far as even some of the things that they say. But then right away, somebody else will be like, oh, well, I have this, this too. And so, people like that, right? Like, oh, they want to identify and they want to, put other people like no others, or, in that thing. And it just creates more of the negative thing that it may not necessarily want. And so, I see it, just about daily as far as like correcting people, just the words that they use. Just shifting that alone can have such a
Hmm.
profound, profound impact on people. Because I mean, for the most part, I mean, you're just, anything that you speak is, going to sit in your energy field, and if it's, you keep saying the same things, over and over again, and especially when people use, I am statements, I got this or I am this. It's like, okay, you know.
Yeah, there's yeah. Um, I would say one of the things I've noticed is I felt like I was better off in a sense before I understood all of this. Like ignorance was bliss.
Mm,
I was like curiosity killed the cat.
yeah. Well,
I
ignorance
was
is sometimes bliss, right?
that's truly like I there are times on my darkest days where I'm like bliss me up.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you can't. I mean, you can't remove this, but it's just that natural. It's kind of like saying you were, 14 was the perfect year of your life and 15 was hell. You want to go back to being 14, and that's just not the case. There's this natural evolution happening, and but my ignorance to all of this stuff, my life, my happiness level was a lot higher. The way my mind works, it thinks about a lot of stuff. So to your point
Mm,
of putting attention on the stuff I need to fix just keeps it needing to be fixed. So back in the
mm,
day, I was ignorant to it and it was fine, but that's just the natural evolution of the soul. So, um,
yeah.
yeah, beautiful, beautiful stuff. Um, anything else you want to touch on before my last question?
No.
Okay. So last question for everybody is, what is truth to you?
Mm. So when I think of truth, I think of light. And to me, light is like information, because there's levels of truth, depending on how illuminated you may be on a particular topic or subject. And so, I think of darkness as just lack of information, and um, I think that kind of goes in line with consciousness too, right? Like that's just letting more information that is there for all of us in, and by um, being more, doing more spiritual things, helping others, being of service to others, you know, uh, studying, and practicing meditation and mindfulness, all of these things ultimately are going to bring in more light, which will open you up and keep revealing, higher levels of truth to you.
Beautiful. Well, that's it for me. It's amazing how quickly 15 minutes goes by in these conversation settings. So,
Yeah, yeah, this was
Leon,
fun.
yeah, thank you for giving me the time, and we'll get this up in the next couple of weeks. Very simple answers. I love simplicity. I love the things you expanded on, and I love the things you didn't
Mhm.
expand on. So I
Thank
love
you.
the beautiful
I
combination.
appreciate
So
that. And to me, just the way I communicate, I like to be very direct, right, with the energy. Because when you use too many words to describe certain things, they don't have the same power behind them. So I like to just be, super concise, and hopefully things land for people and get to help others with this. And thank you for having me on. This has been a wonderful experience, and hopefully get to help some other people with this stuff. And yeah, appreciate you.
when reminds me of that Einstein quote: "If you can't explain it simply, you don't know it well enough," right, or something like that. Yeah. So,
Very true.
all right, Leon, we'll get this edited and up. And I appreciate it again, man.
Awesome. Thank you.
See you, man.